Be very quiet, okay?
A few words, my grandfather Yehuda Bassalian, have a Eulogy of Mr. There's an interesting piece that I heard once from Rav Dessler, that Rav Dessler has a lot of interesting musar that he writes about, and I heard something from one of my friends that I thought was appropriate to share. We know that Avot, each one represented a midah. We had Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, the Avot, they each represented another midah. Abraham was known for Chesed, Yitzchak Avinu was known for Gvura, and Yaakov was known for, you say, about Tiferet, Emet, Din, Torah, all this, but it's all really Emet, right? So, Rav Dessler points out that a lot of times when you go through the Torah, you find that a theme that's very common with Avraham Avinu, for example, is not necessarily the midah of Chesed. For instance, he went through 10 nisyonot, and it would seem that the nisyonot are supposed to point out Avram's gvura, Avram's self-control, his discipline, his fear of God, how he's ready to sacrifice his own son at the climax of all that. And even in the Torah, John could quote you the psukim, but the Torah doesn't mention necessarily outright, doesn't praise Avram, I don't think, for his chesed, but it says how he was in control of his body. Or at least Rashi brings it in interpretation of the psukim. And Rav Dessler asks that how come it is that Avraham Avinu is known for his chesed? Sure, we know the Midrashim, we know that he had the tent with the 4 doors, and he was loved to help other people, and he had tremendous love for other Jews. But why was he specifically about chesed? And yet, there's no mention of the overwhelming theme when you see Avraham in the Torah is not chesed necessarily. It's mostly self-control. Would seem is not only not chesed, but it would seem to be the opposite of chesed. Right? So, Rav Dessler explains that being a Baal Midot, or being a Baal Chesed, does not mean that you're just uncontrollably doing chesed. It means that you do chesed kifi, meaning according to the will of Hashem. Meaning you know how to use and to utilize each midah at their proper time. You want to be a Baal Chesed? You do chesed the way Hashem wants you to do chesed. Not just that you have the personality of chesed, that's your nature, so you're always, you're spontaneous, you always do chesed. For example, my Rosh Yeshiva, Rabbi Bender, he said there were certain people that were complaining about a certain individual who's a big donor to our yeshiva, saying that, he spends a lot on, he donates a lot to Torah, but at the same time, he spends a lot on Gashmiut. He has a whole collection of cars. He has, he likes to treat himself with a lot of Gashmiut. Rabbi Bender said, don't complain, because it's the same attitude that makes him, every time I call him, be happy to write a check for however much I ask for. That same free spiritness is the same spirit that makes him want to go and buy himself a car. So he said, don't put him down for it. It could be used for good also. That's his personality. But at the end of the day, that's a personality. It's not necessarily just coming out of utilizing your midah to do exactly what Hashem wants. My grandparents and my grandmother and my aunt, I remember they were speaking about my grandfather and saying that there are certain midot that go in the same category. There are certain character traits that often would go along with each other. And even in shidduchim, people sometimes know how to utilize that fact to figure out about a person. They'll say sometimes, is he smart? If they're making a call to ask about somebody, they want to know if he's stubborn. They want to know if he's uptight. Say, is he very smart? Is he intellectual? They'll say, is he confident? They want to know if he's selfish, he has ga'ava. they'll say things that typically go along with each one of those midot. Baba had the best of both worlds, like everyone mentioned. Baba was extremely smart. At the same time, he was completely selfless. He was mevater on everything. He was not uptight. He was fun. He was extremely confident. He was a pioneer in many things. And at the same time, he was caring for other people. And he was humble in front of other people. For example, there was someone who was emotionally unwell that for many, many years, my grandfather took care of him, supported him. He let him live in his house during certain tufot. And sometimes you'd see, he'd just sit for hours and listen to everything this person has to say. It didn't match the other qualities he had for somebody to be like that. He was extremely fun. Everyone he was fun. His children, his grandchildren. Yisrael spoke about, I witnessed myself, I enjoyed being around him. Everyone enjoyed being around him. But at the same time, he knew when it was right to give musar. He would condemn people if he thought they were doing something wrong. He wasn't scared. And if you thought about him, you never thought of him as a Baal Musar. You never thought of him as an uptight person. But he would still give them Musar. It was like, it didn't make sense. Because he had both elements and he knew how to combine everything and utilize each midah to the way Hashem wants. I hope my sister forgives me. I don't think she's here. There's a story my aunt